Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan Rahayu. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, respected speaker, lecture participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let us express our deepest gratitude to Almighty God for His blessings so that we are able to gather today in good health to attend this meaningful event. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to warmly welcome you to the writing workshop with the title Writing Discussions, Conclusions, and Responding to Reviewers. My name is Salsa Asdu. Will be your master of ceremony for today. And ladies and gentlemen, to begin our program, let us to say Bismillah together to open this program. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hope the event can be carried out with smoothly. And then the second agenda, let us show our respect and appreciation by singing the national anthem Indonesia Raya, following with Mars Unesa. May all participants please to stand up.
Universitas Negeri Surabaya berperan aktif mencerdaskan bangsa, tangguh bermartabat berbudaya, tulus berbakti laksanakan tridharma, unggul berprestasi, karya inovatif, olahraga, ilmu dan seni, inklusif, adaptif, kolaboratif untuk kejayaan negeri. Dalam tempat kamu raih cintamu, berani jujur dan teguh, jaga persatuan kebersamaan, teguhkan jiwamu untuk Unesa satu langkah di depan. Dalam tempat kamu raih cintamu, berani jujur dan teguh, jaga persatuan kebersamaan, teguhkan jiwamu untuk Unesa satu langkah di depan.
Thank you and please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, this program is organized by the Faculty of Education Universitas Negeri Surabaya in collaborations with the relevant partner as a part of our commitment to enhance published journal and strategic writing skills in the field of education. We are honored to have distinguished speakers and participants from diverse academics and professional background joining us for today. Ladies and gentlemen, Please allow me to introduce our moderator, Dr. Ima Widiana, MPD, a lecturer at the Faculty of Education, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Please give a warm welcome to our moderator. And then, under the guidance of our moderator, we are pleased to welcome our distinguished guest expert, Professor Kieron Sheehy, PhD from Professor of Education's Faculty of Wellbeing, Education and Language Studies, the Open University of United Kingdom. He will share his expertise and insight on writing and publishing journal, which is highly relevant in today's digital academics environment. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the sessions to our moderator, Dr. Ima Widiana. To Dr. Ima Widiana and Professor Kieron, times is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoons, everybody. Distinguished speakers, Professor Kieron is here, and respectable the coordinator of the study program under the Faculty of Education, respectable participants, the lecturers, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let's say thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because of His blessing and mercy, we can meet together in this agenda, the workshop entitled Writing Discussion Conclusion and Responding to the Reviewers, Healthy and Without Any Obstacle, 11 February 2026. Secondly, salawat also salam also be given to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who has guided us from the darkness to the lightness. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to warmly welcome to all the participants who have joined us today in this event, the workshop conference. We truly, really appreciate your enthusiasm and commitment to improving your academic writing and publications quality. Let me introduce myself, Professor Kieron. My name is Ima Widiana, and I will be your moderator today for this workshop. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Kieron lets you know that publishing manuscript or article published index-based corpus is one of the obligatory every lecture in UNESA every year. So every year, one lecture, one corpus. But the problem is publishing a reputable journal doesn't end with writing a strong methodology and result, and many manuscripts are rejected. This is also the mostly problem faced by the lecturers in Indonesia. So the rejected are because of the minor revisions or due to the weakness in the discussion, conclusions, and especially in how the author responds to the reviewer comments. So therefore, this workshop designed and guided by Professor Kieron, hopefully you can help and suggest us how to submit manuscript and accept it to the journal report index-based corpus. And ladies and gentlemen, dear the participants, I would like also introduce our best keynote speaker, Professor Kieron from UK. His academic output includes 51 reference journal articles, is a lot, 24 as first author, and 45 book chapters, 23 as the first author, 2 author books, 5 author book, 10 edited book, and 12 funded. Wow, amazing. Give applause to our keynote speaker. Perhaps you can also give us like some suggestion or recommendation how to publish, how to write a journal, or how to write book. And ladies and gentlemen, all right, I would like to also say thank you to our speaker for your attending today, and I would like to give you times to deliver the material, the workshop, and time is yours. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Can you all see the translation at the bottom? Yeah? Good, good. Yeah, I'd really like that. One day I will have one in my ear and I can speak Indonesian. The pressures on academics to publish is also the same in the UK. So the situation you have here where you're expected to publish perhaps one a year or a top article is shared with people in the UK and European universities. So it's relatively competitive, but on the plus side, there are a lot of journals. So you can publish. As I mentioned this morning, I review for many journals, and the one thing that makes us reject articles from Indonesia and other parts of Southeast Asia is a lack of a section on ethics. I mentioned this morning, this is the one main reason we have good research, well written, but we reject it because the research does not explicitly include a section on ethics and approval from your university's ethical review board. I mention that right at the start before I say anything else, because this is the major reason, in my experience, why we're rejecting articles, because the ethical statement is not there. So if you are submitting to a journal and you haven't put, this research was approved by UNESA, Research Ethics Committee, and then we talk about how you got informed consent, it will not pass. You may get into other journals, but you won't get into any of the top journals. So I keep saying that over and over because it's such a significant factor. Right, so off we go. Sorry about that. Right. What we'll look at today is just briefly the structure and purpose of each section of an article. Talk about developing a clear argument. Plan an article based on completed work or research in progress. We'll do that tomorrow. Look at strategies for drafting and reviewing, and think about habits that allow you to write. Because a lot of people would like to write articles, but don't because they don't have a time slot in their week. So people say, I will write one day. Maybe when I get the time, when my children grow up and leave home, when I get the new computer. But you have to plan. So thing I would like you to do now is think about an article that you plan to write. And then, bless you. And then turn to the person next to you and describe your article that you plan to write, when you'd like to write, to them in one sentence, a very brief sentence. Just do that now, if you could. Okay, and I'll know you're not listening if you're not turning to face your neighbour. Right, I'll say that again. This is an active workshop. What I'd like to do is think of an article you'd like to write and describe it to your neighbour in one sentence, a short little thing. And if you do that now, that would be helpful. Okay, so I get a sense that maybe none of you have done that activity, maybe 2, 4, 6. So that would mean if I were in the UK, where our salaries depend on publication, I would see that most of you would get no money this coming year because you have no ideas that you wish to share and you wouldn't talk to another person about your research. And that's a really important thing, just being able to talk to someone else. So try that again. Think about something you might like to write about or have written about and describe it to the person next to you in one sentence or less, one sentence or more. short. I'm going to go around. Okay, in a minute I will come around and ask you to tell me what you shared. Okay?
Profesor Kieron akan turun ke bawah untuk berbagi dan menanyakan ke Bapak Ibu. Ya. Ya.
In where I come from, if you will not talk about your research and you will not share, you are not in the research group and you will get no funding for your research. Your career prospects would just disappear. It may be different here and you can not be interested in research. But in the UK, academia, you have to be. So perhaps different culture. Okay, here I come. Come around here. What idea? Any ideas?
Yes. Actually, I already have an idea since I finished my magister. I have this is a what is that? The research from my thesis, but I didn't think if it's really much this time. It's about instrument development of second language motivation for foreigner student who is learn Turkish. This time is Turkish in Turkey. Okay, thank you.
I don't have idea, Mister.
Happy energy, yeah, okay. So at this point, if it was in England, I would walk out and say, I will not help you with your career and I will not talk to you about how to get publications. You do not have the energy for one sentence, but you expect me to stand there for 1 hour and talk. So from my perspective, it hurts. I'm very sad. But I'm also sad because, do you publish in many Scopus activities?
Just kidding, Mister.
Me too.
Okay, I would like to research about value of bullying in civic education.
Okay.
Thank you.
And nice and short. That was good because it was short, so we have a really good defined topic.
Okay, I would like to write some article about to developing some kind of, I think, the learning material for learning fraction for the deaf students that correlate with, they can be accessed from the website. Yeah, I think it's some of the article that I would like to write about. Thank you.
Good. So if your idea is to develop something, that's often hard to write as an article. But if you want to develop and then evaluate or assess it, then it's much easier.
Okay, I would like research about learning strategy for intellectual disability, Mr. in inclusive education.
That's good. I'll go back here now. You escaped. From your university's ethics committee. If you don't have that, you will not publish. I keep repeating it because I see so many papers submitted to journals without an ethics section, no support from their university's ethics committee, and they just wiped. And it's a real shame, a real shame. So, foundations of academic article writing. The first thing when you're writing it is to define the purpose. In that introduction, you do a nice little general background, and then you must really hit home on the core research problem and link it to other research that has happened. Okay? What is the core research problem? Now, at the moment, we just threw out some ideas, so you would have done literature review and read around. But what is the core research problem? And the reviewer who's reviewing it should be really clear to them what it is you're doing. What is it the audience want? What is it the journal expects you to do? So if you are submitting to a journal, you need to know what the journal is like. What I used to do was write the article, find a journal with a nice title, and submit it to that. But I never really read the journal. So before you submit to a journal, read the journal, see the tone that they use, and then, follow the style that they have. You, because it's your research, you will know what is good about your research. But you really need to point that out to the reader, and by that I mean the reviewer, in your article. So explicitly state how the article adds new insight or data or methods or theory to the field. And usually that will happen, you can put it in the abstract, definitely in the discussion. So these findings are new, and you would say this is an original contribution to the area. It answers a question of whatever. It addresses the gap in the literature. And you can tailor that. So you can say, within Indonesia, there are issues concerning this topic. And then in the discussion, this article has addressed this topic and makes a significant contribution to the field. You can say that because it points it out for the reviewer who's reading the article quite quickly. This is, so this article, the phrase, this article makes an original contribution to the field is really useful. And then you put, this article makes an original contribution to the field, and then in that, and then say what you've done. It's easy to miss that because for you, the researcher, it's obvious what the originality is. Everyone knows that this is the problem, but the reviewer might not. So make sure that you show them that this is original, or what the problem it addresses. If you are the first person to do something, mention it. This is the first time this questionnaire has been used with Indonesian teachers. This is the first time this aspect of Indonesian classroom life has been studied. And the reviewer will see that first time, that phrase first time, and give you a tick, or be happy. Structuring the article should be straightforward. We read articles and we can see they have defined sections. We have a stable structure that allows us to review and go through things at speed. So we've got a title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. Some journals may ask you to do other little things. They might say a section on what are the practical implications, or you can combine your results and discussion if you're a qualitative researcher. But in general terms, that's the thing you should have. And it helps frame the research, it leads the reader through, and it's effort. It adds clarity and it really helps the reviewer evaluation. Because we can say, introduction good, research question supported, yep. Methods, they look good, or could be developed further, or I can't see why they did X, Y, and Z, but I like the rest, we'll ask them to add a bit more detail. Following that structure and the structure of the journal really helps get publication. What should we have? The title signals the article's focus. So those little, when you shared what you wanted to do in one sentence, that kind of is your title. Boil it down, that should be the title. We should read the title and know what it is you're doing. Doesn't have to be too long. The abstract can vary with journals a little bit, but it should allow the reader to know what you did, why you did it, and what you found out. I've noticed that some American journals, they'll say what they did, how they did it, but they won't tell you the results in the abstract. They'll hide them in the, not hide them, but they'll be in the article. But in general speaking, the abstract should be like a little potted version of the research. Methods, they should allow replicability. So if someone else wanted to do your study, they could follow what you've written and repeat the investigation or the study. And the discussion conclusions links your findings back to the literature. So it's a bit like an egg timer shape. You start off wide and talk about the general area, introduce literature, then you narrow down a little bit, then you focus on your research question, then you have your findings and everything, and then at the end you go the opposite way. You start linking your findings, you say what your findings are, and then in the discussion you start linking them back to the literature, so it widens out again just before you get to the conclusion. Here is the purpose of each of those sections and common pitfalls where we all fall down. So the title should signal the topic and focus, but it's commonly too vague, working with children in the elementary years, new horizons and perspectives. Don't know what that is. Or it could be too technical. Often people who do quantitative work will put the statistical tests and element of the focus in the title, and that's not helpful either. So signal topical focus, abstract, say summarize the whole article. Sometimes abstracts miss out the findings. Introduction, what is the issue that you're discussing? What is your contribution? In the day, now we all have Mendeley. Do you use referencing software like Mendeley? And you have all of that. It's very easy to have too long an introduction because you've got access to all this knowledge now, and people keep shoveling more in, and the introduction can be too long. So be careful about what you put in there. Methods of, literature review, synthesize. With the literature review, if you summarize what other people have done and present it after the other, it won't work as an introduction. You have to analyze the contribution of the other literature to the research question or area you're looking at. And when that's done, it really boosts the article. We won't worry about that. In the discussion, it's about interpreting your findings in the light of the literature, usually the literature you've mentioned already in the introduction. A common pitfall is that people just repeat the results. So you have the findings and people just repeat the results in the findings and then stop. So you've got to really relate it back. And one more there for a minute. Let me just show you something. No, I won't. I can't see. Here's a research paper that we submitted to a journal, to the, I can't remember what it was, IFA. So, looks all right, doesn't it, at the moment? You think, well, it's got a title, it's got the abstract, it's got all the things, all the little sections we'd expect. You know, nice map, nice findings. So all the sections are there, bit of stats. But this got rejected by the journal. And the reason for that is because it reflects some of those common pitfalls. Because we put it in and it got rejected. And looking at it, the title is The Impact of Indonesian Teachers' Beliefs on Inclusive Disaster Risk Reduction Education, okay? But when you read through, we find that a significant part of the discussion and the findings are about their use of song and dance and local language in their teaching. That isn't in the title. It doesn't come across. We need to revise the title. The rest of it, I think, is okay, but the title and the focus needs to be stronger. And if we look in the introduction there, we have a lot of information here, nice stuff about the use of songs and lullabies and rhymes to teach disaster risk reduction to young children. But that is not mentioned in the title. So I was in the common pitfalls. We failed because of that. So it's easy to make these mistakes. I mean, I've written lots of articles, and here I am submitting one on a topic I love, and it got rejected. Out the back, it got rejected. And that's the reason why, because it did the common pitfall with the title. And I think if we reframe the title, when we resubmit it, I think we'll probably get accepted. Not to this journal, we'll do another journal. Does that make sense? Yep. So those common pitfalls are it's easy to do. That was an example of me and my little team, my colleagues. We got rejected because our title didn't reflect the focus, and it wasn't really strong enough in the abstract, what the focus was. The rest of the article is pretty good. But that initial thing, and the reviewer will have looked at that article, looked at the title, looked at the abstract, thought, well, this doesn't match. Reject. This is an important point. A person, us, is part of an academic community. So you're writing with colleagues. You're writing within a university environment. There are very few people who write like that. You know, you're great, but then who are you going to share your work with to get feedback on? You know, I'm quite a solitary person, but even I have to come over here. And this bit here is people working together. And it doesn't even need to be, how can I put it? It doesn't have to be your article and your focus, but if you've got a group of people, you can supply coffee and biscuits for them while they're writing, trying to give them a space to write. Having it regular, when you can, meetings to discuss your ideas. So you get used to sharing and talking about research or your ideas for research. Because the first part is having an idea. And that's often the hardest part, to have an idea. So this research is occurring in an environment where some things will help you publish and some things won't. I would say that it's very important to be supportive of colleagues, not competitive, and not put them down. People will have ideas and try, and as we'll see, I hope I've shown getting rejected is part of academic life. It really hurts. You know, that one they rejected. They rejected my good article. They said, no, thank you. And you'd think, wouldn't you, I'm very old, I've published loads, I should just say, oh yeah, that's fine, we'll do it again. No, it hurt. It hurt. That's my baby you've just turned down, you know. So to be supportive of colleagues, because everyone will be getting these rejections and trying. So help and support each other. If you are in charge of a group of researchers who are supporting them, try and put in place things that will help everyone. Time, equipment, biscuits, tea, coffee, things that will help. But mostly it's about having an attitude of support. And now a song from my good friend. Oh, sorry. And now your song.
Thank you.
No song? No song today. Tomorrow. Sorry, my apologies. Academic community, if you're responsible for a group, nurture them, look after them. We like to have groups of researchers where you have an experienced researcher, a very new person, people in the middle, and we all do different things. So this morning when we talked about the different roles in research teams, you can all play a part. Everyone can play a part. You can be the person that makes the resources, the person that collects the data, does the interviews, looks after the machinery, the computers, whatever. But everyone needs to just find a role they're happy with. Particularly if you're new to research, it's nice to be part of a team and watch it happening. So, I don't know how you write, but I usually write some sort of title, then I make up the abstract, you know, sort of roughly, and then I'll have bits that I've written, and I work with the bits I've written to make them bigger and shape them up that way. Drafting routine is a tricky one, but some people talk about daily word goals, and they set themselves, I'm going to write 5,000 words today, you know, or 10,000 this week. I've never done that. What I would like to do is sort of think, right, Wednesday afternoon is my time to write. The thing to bear in mind is if you're teaching all week, and then Wednesday afternoon is your time to write, it will take you probably 2 hours to remember what you were writing and get back into it. You know, you can't pick it up straight away. It takes time to get back. So allow yourself time to remember what it is you're doing, and just engage with that process, and don't beat yourself up if you don't write 5,000 words. You know, it might be that just thinking and making notes is what you're going to do that week. Drafting is good. Have I got it here? Oh, discussions with people like we did there, sharing with your team. Let me show you there. So this is a paper we wrote. I did the initial draft, then I sent it to the members of my group on an email, you know. Nowadays we tend to have shared documents in a SharePoint. I'm not so good on that, but all the young people have SharePoint. I email them anyway. And you can see, so we have everybody here. My colleagues are giving me suggestions. So I would be careful naming this one. Once is equivalent, blah, blah, blah. It's fun though, we went there with a group. Suggestion, mention arches, which is the project in that sessions. She deleted something. Sorry to burst the bubble, but we're not going to have any AR. I started writing this because I thought the project we were working on would be develop augmented reality, goggles and stuff. And it was only when we shared this I found we weren't going to have any AR at all. So people are suggesting what to do. A bit later on. Jane's saying, just after this quote, insert a linking sentence that links what you said. So these aren't reviewers, these are my colleagues in the research team. So I drafted this, sent it to my colleagues. Remind the reader of the research questions. I'd suggest what you need to do here. We need some more text. They're giving me suggestions. And those colleagues, just to show you, are the people who are named as authors and co-authors. That one. A bit more of that. So that takes time. So, oh, hang on. Have I got? Last night, just had a look at what they required. And because I was thinking of publishing that other one in there, and they won't accept even they won't even send you for review unless you have a statement that your research has been approved by your university's ethics committee. So when you're designing your research, before you collect your data, make sure you get this approval. Otherwise, you won't get off the ground. Okay, and you know the ethical stuff that we have to do, depending on your target audience, who you're working with. But show how you got informed consent if you're working with children or adults. If you're working with young children, how you monitored their ongoing assent. Well, I think I've covered that this morning, so I won't do that again. But the key element in getting a publication is that you have your Research Ethics Review Committee approval in your article. Journals sometimes get far too many articles. They have to weed them out. We have to say, no, no, no. And a quick way of doing that is just look in the methods section and say, have they got ethical approval for this study? If they haven't, we just bin it. Who has submitted a journal article and got rejected? Who submitted it? Anyone submitted a journal article? No? Okay. So none of you submitted an article, so you'll be submitting your first one. The thing to bear in mind is you'll send your submission in. If it gets reviewed, it may come back rejected with very harsh feedback. It may feel harsh. It's because it's your research. It's quite an emotional thing, particularly that first one you submit. You submit your article, it comes back, but you have to deal with that emotion and think, okay, what are the recommendations? What do they want me to change? What do they want me to change? And you need to show them you've changed it. Yeah. Everything else there is quite straightforward, really. But it's that the emotional part of dealing with that rejection is interesting, because it's very tempting to say, I'll put it away now and come back to it later and never come back to it again. I have an article like that from 1989. I sent it in. They didn't like it. I was really upset. I thought, well, I'll come back to that in a month or so. 1989, I've never gone back to it. I should, but I was upset by the rejection. It was one of my first ever articles, and I was upset by the rejection. How will you develop your draft article? How do you prefer to work? Do you dive straight in and just write? I worked with someone like that once in Ireland, and he would come in, it's his day, he would come in, sit down and write, and do it whole day, and then say, but he's the only person I've ever met who did that. A patchwork writer, that's probably what I am. I collected the data, I write the abstract maybe in my mind, I write the introduction, draft it, sort out the references, come back to I tend to do work in bits. The grand planner, some people I know, They plan how they're going to write the article, put the headings, and then even make notes about what they want each section to do. That's a very thoughtful way of doing it. I've not done that myself. And the architect, who gets the structure in place, throws stuff in for each section. That works quite well. But the important bit in developing that article is, who will you share it with for feedback? And are they co-authors? Reading an article draft is really, really, what's the word? Hard work. It's not a pleasant task. People often say, oh, I've written this article, would you just have a quick look at it and tell me what you think about it? So you've got 6,000 word, 7,000 word article. It will take you several hours to read it. You'll have to concentrate. It's really hard. And if you just ask a colleague to do that, you have to assume a lot of goodwill on their part. So either you're going to do that for them and they'll do that for you, or I would recommend having co-authors. So you're a team and you give it to your co-author who does that review and sends it back to you, and they get their name on, because then it's much better, it's much more motivational. I say, look, here's this article, I've drafted it, would you like to review that for me, give me some feedback, and you can, as you're a co-author on the article, and we'll both get a publication. If you can get more than two people I'd say is you, 2 others is probably a good number. 3, okay, more than that, you can get too many comments, but 2 or 3 people. So find a group of people you get on with who want to go be co-authors with you on a project. You do if you're the first author, you do that draft, that first draft, and send it to the team like we saw before. Some of my colleagues like to present the draft in a workshop. That is my idea of hell. I really don't like that, but some people love it. They will draft that article and they'll say, look, here's my draft article in the workshop, and you ask for contributions and thoughts from the audience. I really don't like that. I feel exposed. You know, here's my unfinished work, but I don't mind sharing it with supported colleagues who are going to be my co-authors. But that's for you to come up with now. A problem for people for whom English is not a first language is this man here, him. He is reviewer 2. When you submit to your journal, reviewer 1 will be me. I'll say, I like this. Oh, this is really good. Yeah, gives insights into this aspect of this other. This is lovely. Could tweak the language a bit here. Watch out for some phrases. I like this. But not reviewer 2. It's always reviewer 2. They will be very critical of your academic English. So, for example, writing in the past tense, you know, this research explored, ED, stuff like that. They'll pick you up on that. They may ask you to revise the style. If they are, some journals will recommend that you get your article written by someone with English as a first language, and they supply that for a cost. Don't ever do that. You don't need to do that. Because my name is Kieron Sheehy, it's not a common English name at all, it's an Irish name. People assume, if I write with people from Indonesia, that I'm Indonesian, so they say I need to get some support with my written English. But don't do that. Reviewer 2. So, way we beat reviewer 2 is if you can work with an English first language colleague, that's helpful. You can use AI to check your spelling and your tense. Think about the text structure and argument style of that journal. Some journals are very, very tight on their style, others are more relaxed. And you'll get a sense of that just by reading the journal. So if you want to submit to a particular journal, read through it and say, do I enjoy reading this? Is this okay? You know, and try and then look at how they structure their articles. Technology now is really helping this aspect. You know, spell checking, phrases, synonyms. You know, you can really develop your writing. It helps everyone. Referencing. Referencing used to be the bugbear of all academics. It took days to reference by hand. But now we have Mendeley. If supply your references, make sure that your references are in the style that the journal wants. Yes, they are reviewed as submission to a journal. Very exciting. Reviewed a submission to a journal, and the journal requires APA style. And the submission did the numbered one. You know, you number all the references. What that told me was they'd never read the journal they were submitting to, and they'd never read the guidance. So that was an immediate rejection. Sadly, because it could be good. But with Mendeley, just select your style and you're in. It'll save you a lot of time. With your journal, check if they like AI use or not. Most journals now will say, indicate where you used AI in your research. So you could say, we used AI to analyze the data set B, you know, because AI is in everything now. We use Google LM to translate the questionnaire into Bahasa Indonesia. Just say how you used it. Occasionally, you'll see journals that still say, AI is not allowed to be used in the research. But that is like living in the past. All researchers use AI now. It's so helpful for so many things. Mendeley has got AI in it now. You know, you can summarize, you can click on 12 articles, produce a table of the results, summarize the results. What does this mean? Interrogate it. You know, AI is everywhere. You're using your statistics, SPSS. AI is in that now. It's everywhere. So for a journal to say no AI is really a bit silly. Everyone uses AI now. You just need to indicate clearly how you used it and where. Sometimes a reviewer will think you've used AI when you haven't. I sometimes get that because I use a dash in my writing. You know, dash, and AI machines use the dash too. But it's my natural style. So people sometimes say to me, "You're using AI." I say, "No, this is me." So that's a problem we all face, but it's not too bad. How do you find your journal? I mean, I think here in Indonesian universities now, you're kind of focused on Scopus sort of rankings, are you? And looking higher up. So just have a rummage around, I would say. Have a rummage around. You could also use AI to take the title of your article and use something, what would be a good one? What's the Google AI called? Gemini? Gemini's quite good. You say, give me 3 high-ranking journals for an article with this title, and it'll do that. Or you can go through Scopus and have a look. But it's nice to have some suggestions to start with, and that'll get you going. You can check out those journals, you know, and the more specific your prompts can be, the more helpful it is in choosing your journal. Because there's thousands of journals out there. You can't read every one of them. You can't be familiar with them all, but you can use AI to make some suggestions for you, helpful suggestions. The journals have impact factors and ranking systems and prestige markers, but the main thing is your article should fit with the journal's aims. So look at what the journal aims to do and find. And also I have a journal I love called the Athens Journal of Education, Athens in Greece. I often submit to it. It's really poorly ranked. it's by any marker, it's not a prestigious journal, but I like it. So I submit to it sometimes because I can submit by email. The feedback is always helpful and they turn around quickly. That's something to bear in mind. Journal turnaround times. How soon do you need your publication out? How soon do you need it reviewed? Our last paper that we published, I think it took a year and a quarter before it got a review, and another 6 months before the reviewers responded. So it was nearly 2 years before we got feedback. That was the International Journal of Inclusive Education. So when you're thinking about submitting to a journal, you can use AI for this. How long is the typical feedback turnaround for, and you name the journal. And AI will tell you, Microsoft Copilot will tell you, it usually takes 6 months, 7 years. So if you need a quick turnaround, ask AI, I don't know, if it was me, I was in inclusive education, which inclusive education journals have the quickest review time? And use that one. And you can investigate. Sometimes the AI are completely wrong, so make sure you check with the journal then, but it's very, very helpful. Adhere to submission rules. So what that means is check how the journal wants you to submit your article. Most will want you to have figures and tables submitted separately to the text. So you submit your text, and you have figure 1 about here, and then you have figure 1 as a separate document, table 1 about here, and that's a separate document. But you'll see that as you go through the submission process online. This is interesting. For me, it's interesting. One of my colleagues who started off as my PhD student is now a top professor globally in the world, globally. And she's gone like, really, she's very talented and hardworking, which helps. But one time we did a joint article together, and I saw the letter that she sent to the editor of the journal, and it was very persuasive. Dear blah, 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 please find attached our submission for your journal. We feel our article is a good fit with your journal because of its clear interest in social justice and the audience, blah, 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 blah. So I've never done that myself. I just put article attached. And that might be why she's up there and I'm down there. So have a think about when you do your submission and you have a letter to the editor, what you put in it. I'm the wrong person to help you with that because I'm really bad at that. I just put the article in and say, dear editor, here is my article. But I think a lot of people put a little bit in there, that article, showing why their article is good for the journal and why the journal is a good choice for their article. Peer review decisions, you have outright reject, you have reject and rewrite, or complete acceptance. Complete acceptance is rare. Usually there are a couple of things to tweak, at least. And you'll find that you have reviewer 1 will say, this is an excellent article, I enjoyed reading it, publish. Reviewer 2 will say, there are many flaws in this article which need to be addressed before we can go further. You need to rewrite the introduction, tell me more about the stats, but reviewer 2, there's always a reviewer 2. Sometimes there isn't. If we could find where he lives, we could make our lives happier. I keep mentioning this. The emotional challenge. Do not be put off. When you put your first article in and you get rejected, please don't be put off. Remember, you just have to keep trying. Respond to the feedback positively. Let's see if I've got some. Here we go. So, this is review one. Review one was this is an article we published. Did we publish this? Yeah, this was one that was published. Review one, sorry. When you get your feedback, make a table and have the comments by each reviewer in column 1. Then you have authors' responses to those comments for each point, and then you have changes made. So when that comes, you put that in with your review, when you send in your revised document, revised thing, the journal editor can see, have clearly addressed the reviewer's comments. Here's reviewer's comments, here's what we say, here's how we've addressed them. So it's nice and straightforward. That, it really does help you get, so you've had some revisions, you've made them, and you're straight in the journal. Hooray! Because it's straightforward. So look, here one. This is reviewer 1 still. The introduction is clear, however, there are some points to consider. You have not been consistent throughout the paper with special educational needs and disabilities. You need to include the use of send, blah, blah, blah. I put, yes, agreed. It's a good point. Yes, agree with that. We have amended the text and used the term children with special educational needs and disabilities or SEND throughout. These changes are highlighted in red in the document. So we've said, good point. We've checked, and this is what we've done to address it. And then you'll have, that's reviewer 1, then you have the comments from there from reviewer 2, what your author's response is, and then the changes you've made. This is the hard bit. Not the hard bit, but, doing drafting, rewriting, you need time and a place to do it. Sometimes you have to be selfish. You have to find a little place you go to do your writing. In a busy world where people want your time, the job is always after you, and you've got children, your partner's gone off round the corner and you've got all the children. They're supposed to be back so you can do some writing. They're still not back. So you need some time to do that, to get your writing. For me, I used to write Wednesday afternoons was my writing time. Wednesday afternoons. I had no lectures on Wednesday afternoons. I used to block it out. Wednesday afternoons. So and lunchtime. Wednesday lunchtime, Wednesday afternoon. Writing groups can be good. Can be good if you're supportive. They can be very bad if you have a real super duper writer in the group who just talks about how they've written hundreds of things and you haven't written anything that week and it makes you feel terrible. So writing groups need to be supportive. So I would say make sure you're in a writing group with supportive colleagues and there's a good atmosphere. Because it is, you are sort of, particularly in academia, you say, well, I'm going to write this research, and you haven't, for a very reason, everyone's in that boat, you haven't done it. You don't want to be feeling bad because of the writing group, So make sure you put a group of friendly colleagues together. They don't have to be friends, but they have to be friendly and supportive colleagues. One thing in that group, it's helpful if you've got a mixture of people. So it shouldn't all be professors who are publishing an article every other week, and then just them in the group. You should be one person who publishes a bit, one person who hasn't published at all, somebody who's just trying to write their first article. So it's a mixture of groups, so that really helps if you have a mixture of people in that group. Some people make great use of streamlining processes and writing themselves schedules. Getting AI to do your schedule. If that's the way you like to work, that's great. For me, I just think get some time to think about what you want to write. Write what you can and then come back to it. and then perhaps share that with some supportive colleagues at another time. You're often tasked with saying, the university expects you to produce one article every 2 years. And then you'll have a review and they say, where is your article? At what stage is your article? I've never really found that helpful, you know, but some people think it's helpful to monitor their progress in developing the article. And they say, well, it's 50% done, 75% done, whatever. A writing timeline is good with deadlines. If you need to get a publication by a certain date, then think, well, I'm going to submit it to this journal. They're going to spend 6 months reviewing it, so I'll therefore need to submit it here. So that can be helpful because that motivates you. I've got to finish this article in the next 2 months and send it to this journal, so I'll get it reviewed by December. Anticipate challenges. If you have a big deadline for submission coming up, your children will become sick. They always do. I remember my PhD. I had to hand in my PhD. I had 1 week. The children all got chicken pox, all got chicken pox. The car broke down. I think we had a leak in the ceiling. Everything that could have happened in that week. But you'll get through it. It's just try and give yourself a bit more time than you would think you need. If you need 2 weeks, you think, I could finish this in the next 2 weeks. Give yourself a plan for 3 because someone will get chicken pox, the car will break down, the roof will leak. Something will happen. That's that. Mentors and collaborators we've discussed. So, what are your takeaways from this workshop? I hope the first one is, before I collect any data, I will get ethical approval from the university's Research Ethics Committee. I keep repeating that because, based on my experience, at least half of you won't do that. And your article will never get published because you haven't done that. And it is the same, it's not just you, it is the same all over the place, the same in the UK. Do you have plans for article writing and submission? The first thing is to come up with an idea of something that you want to do. So when we did that, turn to someone and tell them an idea, you really should think about what is my idea? What is it that I want to write about? Because you're going to commit time to it, so it has to be something you're interested in that has meaning for you. Someone asked me, well, what's the gap in the area of special and inclusive education that I could write about? And my response was really, I think, no, it's better to find something that you are motivated and interested in rather than looking for a gap, because you're going to give a lot of your time to this thing, so it should be something you like. Concrete goal for the next 2 weeks? Do you have, is your publication outputs reviewed? In the UK, we have a ref exercise, and my colleagues back in the UK now are having to say, here is what I will publish in the next 2 years. Here's what I have published last year. Will you have a similar deadline? Will someone come and say to you, where are your publications? So if that is the case, I don't know when that will be, but, do you have a concrete goal for the next 2 weeks? 2 weeks. How much time will you spend on your research in the next 2 weeks? 5 minutes? 1 day? And it's up to you. The article won't publish itself. You have to, think about what you want to do. And how will you get out? I mean, I remember once we wanted to do some work with children in schools, and we thought, oh, we'll do it next week. And then we finally got everything together. We went off to Wales, part of the UK, and it was summer holiday. All the children had gone. So we had to wait for 6 months before we could actually do we missed all the deadlines. So, yeah. Think about how you like to write, who you like to write with. Are you a solitary person who shares drafts, or do you develop things in discussion? People often want to ask about the use of AI, so I'm happy to answer any questions about AI in developing your article. 3 of these slides were created entirely by AI. I had nothing to do with it. Did you spot which ones they were? No. Anyway. And that's all I'm going to say for now. Any questions?
Right, so thank you very much, addressed to Professor Kieron for such insightful and practical presentations. All of us, we have learned the valuable strategies on how to strengthen ourselves to submit our manuscript into publication journal index-based corpus. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, the participants, now we will now move to the question and answer, Q&A, and the participants also welcome if you have any questions that address to our keynote speaker, Professor Kieron. Ya, Ibu Rizky.
What was one there? You're welcome.
Thank you very much for the insightful knowledge today, Professor. I'm sorry, I should have run over there to take this microphone. I think you have delivered very meaningful information, which I cannot understand the whole thing in just one time. So I need to maybe take a look at it back when I have written my manuscript. So if possible, may I ask you to share the slides to us? Just thank you so much.
Thank you, Ibu Rizky. Mau di-share ya nanti berarti. All right, so do we have another questions, dear participants? Masih ada kayak, okay. Bu, silakan. Mbak.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Ima, for the opportunity. Thank you, Professor Kieron. That was really insightful presentations. My name is Zulfin from the PKSD department. What I want to ask is about how to give a response, or how to respond the reviewer when they give us the feedback, because we are, as the author, sometimes we have our own ideas. This is my previous story. When I got rejected from the journal, they have a special issue, so they announced that we are the authors can give a commentary. So we comment the article. They have a special issue on justice, but because my research interest is in literacy, so I give the perspective, my own perspective, from the literacy justice literacy. So when I give that, they reject my manuscript. So I want to ask your suggestions. What's the best things to respond? I mean, the best one, the best way to respond the feedback. Do we need to follow our idea or we follow the feedback? Thank you very much.
That's a really good question, and it's the deaf issue is a really good example. So, and it depends on the journal and the editors. So a journal that has more of a sociological aspect would like what you said, because they'll be looking at deafness and deaf education from a social justice perspective. And they might say, we have a language community, minority within the society, and deafness, speaking about deaf community, and therefore a literacy perspective would be very helpful on that group. However, the journal may not share that at all. The journal may be over here. They may be talking about how we teach deaf children to do X, Y, and Z. They want pedagogical strategies for doing particular things, and they aren't so interested in social justice. So it's finding, before you submit, it's getting a sense of where the journal is coming from. We had the same thing. We submitted an article on inclusive education, children's rights to be educated, and how we could, what we might expect schools to do to adapt to get our children. But the journal we submitted it to weren't interested in that. They said inclusion and special, but what they wanted was remedial teaching approaches for specific disabilities. So we were coming at it from a big inclusive angle, Salamanca statement, all of this, and the journal wanted things. Here are the diagnostic features of children with autism or with deafness, or deaf children with autism. Here is the assessment, here is the intervention, here are the quantitative results. So there was a mismatch. So that's the first thing. The next, though, is supposing you are in the right journal and you get that rejection, or they ask you to change things. In that table, response to reviewers, the ones I showed you, we said, yes, we agree, or good point, and we showed you what we changed. You don't always have to do that. You can say, reviewer's response, author's response, you don't have to agree with them. You can say, the reviewer might say, change the language you're using to say children with disabilities. And we'll say, we have decided not to do this because this article is written from a social model perspective where the term disabled children is preferred. Reference. Changes made. We have our articles remain unchanged with regard to this. You'll have other changes you have made. So you don't always have to agree, but you have to show why. That said, it's always a bit, yes, reviewer, yes, Mr. Reviewer, yes, indeed. You do have to be a little bit, because the editor is not an expert in what you've just done. They're relying on the reviewers, and they kind of have to trust them. And that means that the editor is on the side of the reviewers rather than on the side of the authors. On the side. So it's always best to be a little deferential to the reviewers, unless you have a clear point that you can't change. Sorry, that's okay.
Very much. Unfortunately, due to the time limitations, we can only give the last questions to the participants if there is any questions. Masih ada Bapak Ibu yang mau ditanyakan? Pak Vicky? All right. So I'm going to conclude that we got from during joining the workshop today with Professor Kieron. First, right? We have to do the following step before submitting our manuscript. First, write clear and develop strong arguments. And we also have to understand the standard of article and structure. Title abstract must be clear and give the signal to the article focus. Pay attention with the ethic of the journal. Think about your academic community and prepare a way of working and selecting journal and targeting journal also the most important. So we also do hope after joining the workshop today with Professor Kieron and got the new insight from Professor Kieron, our manuscript will be accepted this year, 2026. We're gonna pass the OLOS system. Setuju nggak Bapak Ibu? Okay, this is also, we hope that our manuscript accepted because, you know, in our campus, one lecture, one scopus, so it's really hardworking for us to always write our manuscript, reject, write again. Don't worry, Bapak Ibu, 100 hopes. One reject, there is any chance 999 chance for us to submit it again, submit it again. Ya Bapak Ibu, okay, give applause to Professor Kieron. All right, so now we reach to the end of the workshop. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express our sincerely appreciation to Professor Kieron for sharing the valuable knowledge and practical insight with us today. We also thank to all the participants for your active participation and thought questions. We do hope throwing this workshop will help all of us improve our manuscript for sure and increase our chance of publication in reputable journal. So once again, thank you very much for your attention. Please give applause to Professor Kieron. And me, Ima Widiana, as the moderator today, I'm asking apologies if there is any mistake from me, and have a wonderful today and good luck with your writing and publication journey, and keep spirit for all us. Thank you. All right, so for the last, dear participants, we would like to invite you come forward and we can take a picture with Professor Kieron as well. Kita foto, picture.